welcome to this knitting podcast. My name is Kalila. I use she, her pronouns. I'm 33 and I live just outside of Boston with my husband. I decided to start a podcast, and I'll also preface this by saying I do have some beef with the term podcast. I think it's more of a yapathon. Is it a podcast if there's video? Regardless, I love a good knitting podcast while I knit, so I figured I would contribute to the medium. This is my first ever podcast, so I figured it might make sense to go through some of the basics while also talking about my recently finished objects, my works in progress, and some acquisitions and plans for yarn coming up. If you see me looking over here, it's because I have my Ravelry pulled up on my computer, and I also have a little highlights of what I want to talk about just to make sure I don't forget anything. I figured I would first start with some background about me. I am a knitter, I'm a crocheter, do a lot of other crafts. I've been knitting since I was about 12, I think, maybe even a little younger. The first thing I knit was a very small cream-colored scarf for my teddy bear. I don't have the scarf anymore. It was 10 inches long by 1.5 inches wide. And it was just garter stitch. I remember trying so hard sitting on the couch in my parents' living room working on this scarf for my teddy bear, but it came out very cute. And from there, I had that kind of classic first scarf project that was in and out, losing stitches everywhere. It was not a wearable garment. But then I did a bunch of knitting in high school. I knitted gifts for people. I knitted a sweater for myself, a lot of hats, a lot of scarves. I kind of put knitting aside during college at some point. I think I just had too much to do. And it didn't make sense in my college room to have a bunch of yarn and stuff. And I picked up crocheting after college. I made a bunch of baby blankets, gifts for friends who were having babies. I also did some quilting at that time. And about 1.5 years ago, I started seeing people's knitted wearables and seeing those on Instagram and online and being like, gosh, wouldn't it be nice if I had some wearables? But I didn't like the look of crocheted wearables. So I decided to pick knitting back up again. And I think the first thing I made was a Sophie hood in over the winter break last year. And then since then, kind of gone all in, have knit a bunch of stuff and have really loved it. And I also found a kind of local knitting community. There's a knit group at one of my yarn stores nearby that's mostly younger women and younger people. And it's been really nice. And also kind of it's not just for old people, there are young people who knit. Obviously there are young people who knit, but it's been really nice to have that in person. So all that being said, let's start with my most recent finished object, which actually it's a two-parter. So it's this very lovely Audrey cardigan by Knitting for Olive. And I knit it in, let me just pull up the details. You'd think I'd be ready with this. I knit it in a size small for myself, obviously. And it is knit in the Knitting for Olive merino, held with the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, both in the color red currant. And it has this really lovely I-cord detail with this bow in the front. And then you kind of do this faux I-cord along the front, or I guess it just makes it curl a little bit, has these edge stitches. And then a interesting kind of double knit bind off, so not an I-cord there. And then you do have a one row of rapid decreases on the sleeve before an I-cord sleeve bind off. The pattern called for 5 skeins of both the mohair and the merino. I used just under 4 skeins of the mohair and just over 4 skeins of the merino. Swap that. Just under 4 skeins of the merino and just over 4 skeins of the mohair. And I will say overall, I really enjoyed this garment. It was very portable because it's pretty you can squish the fabric up pretty small. And so I knit this a lot while I was traveling for work this fall. It could easily kind of squish into my, not even this size project bag, the one smaller that I have. It was stockinette, pretty much all on one size needle. So I didn't really have to worry about like bringing my interchangeable set. It was, to be fair, especially once you got to the body, a lot of back and forth, like not in the round stockinette, which I know a lot of people have a lot of feelings about purling. I don't hate purling, but it can get kind of old. Like knitting is so much faster, but I do find that it helps like drive me to finish the project faster because I'm like, oh yeah, like busting through this knit row, and then I get to a purl row and I'm like, I just want to finish it so I can get back to a knit row. So like kind of how stripes are like addicting and you want more, I find that like the back and forth stockinette can kind of be like that as well. I also knit the sleeves. They were a little bit short before blocking, but I read a lot of the Ravelry comments and kind of stretched them out a little bit as it was drying, and they came out to a perfect length. I also ended up frogging the bottom after I'd finished it and just adding another inch because I had made it a little bit too short. But it was just kind of hard to tell like what it was going to be like when it blocked out, because after you knit this, it kind of curled up and it was just hard to see like what the finished length would be. Overall, super happy with this. And then I had a skein of each left and it felt like I needed to do something. And so I looked around on Ravelry looking for patterns that used the combination of DK and lace weight held together, hopefully not more than a skein of each, hopefully a little less. And I decided that I could just like fully embody the color red and knit myself the Gatan Balaclava. This balaclava is by Simone Alexandra, oh gosh, Erso. I cannot pronounce her last name. It is this really lovely, like 2x2 rib. Actually, yeah, 2x2. And you start at the bottom, and it was a lot of 1x1 on tiny circulars. My hands were kind of exhausted. And you can see I still have to weave in my ends. On the neck, I knit a size 1, and I did not do the, she has a version where you knit a longer 1x1 rib section and kind of have this like folded neck. I knew I didn't have enough yarn for that. So you start at the bottom, and then you bind off all of the stitches for the front here, and you go up and do some increases along the back. So here, I'll hold it up so that maybe you can see how the increases work. And then you go along, back and forth, doing this rib pattern. And then, and it's actually not quite 2x2 rib, it's a very cool little rib pattern, but kind of hard to like mindlessly do. You do some decreases at the top, and then you go into short rows, and that's how you end up with this kind of cool top section that then just like comes right across that way. And then you pick up stitches all along the front, the sides, and the bottom. It was 2 stitches for every 3, and then 2 for every 3 rows. And you can see, maybe you can't quite see, that I ran out of mohair about 5 rows from the end of the face ribbing. And I just decided to keep going, the same size needle, just with the merino. I think it came out fine. I was a little bit worried. I won't put it on because it's gonna like mess up my hair, and I feel like my hair looks cute, and I don't want to get merino in my eye. I was a little worried that the face ribbing was too tight right after I first knit it, but I stretched it out a fair amount as I was blocking it, and it no longer looks like I'm like emerging from the balaclava, like being squeezed out of a tube. Now it's a bit more relaxed. And I think it'll be a really cozy, cute winter accessory. I have a black coat that I'm imagining it'll look great with. And just like bright pop of color, good for the holidays. I don't think I will wear the 2 together because I think that is just a little bit too much red. And I might look a bit like Elmo. So we won't be doing that. But that's what I made. And all that I have left of the yarn from this project is this, which I can use as like a holder for stitches or something when I'm making other projects. It's so little that it's just negligible. I'm very proud of that. So next we will move, let's consult, into my works in progress, of which I only have one. I am not I'm a monogamous knitter. I don't like having a lot of whips at once. I find it distracting mentally, and I like to just like go all in on a project. So I have one whip. And that is the Zipper Light Man cardigan by Petite Knit, which I am making for my dad. It is his Christmas present. He knows about it because I made him pick what sweater he wanted. I gave him a big like Ravelry bundle that I put together of men's sweaters. Shout out to like everyone who put together any sort of like men's sweater bundle. And I will say, I think I'm doing a project vlog for this, so I might not talk about it in like super detail. But he picked the Zipper Light sweater by Petite Knit. I'm knitting a size medium for him. I am making a few modifications. One accidental, I ended up doing the combination rib on the neckline because that's what the video said, but not actually what the pattern intended. And then I am knitting the sleeves to his specific sleeve measurements. He has one arm that's shorter than the other. I think I'll probably end up making it shorter because he's not like super tall. I started this on Tuesday. It used Judy's Magic Cast On, which was new to me. And this morning I knit together the front and the back, or like I knit together the neckline and have now started on the German short rows for the back of the neck. I'm making this in Pure Gint in the color Smoke, Santa Scar and Pure Gint. It is this really lovely kind of heathery gray. Overall, it's just been pretty easy going. I did have one, well, I'll save more of my personal gripes with myself and mistakes that we'll just call design decisions for the knitting vlog for this project. But overall, very happy with this whip. I think we are now entering the mindless knitting section of this. The knitting together of the front and back, or the held and active stitches on this, was maybe not so mindless. It was kind of crazy, but it's coming together. And my goal is to have a fair amount of this complete by Thanksgiving so that he can try it on, see what it looks like. I also made the collar a tiny bit shorter than the pattern calls for. It calls for 7 3/4 inches. I did 7 inches. I just felt like I didn't want it to be like all the way up to his chin. When it was done, I wanted it slightly below so he didn't feel like he was being like suffocated by sweater. I think it's a good length, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. Now, let's move into acquisitions and plans for knitting moving forward. I will start with my next like holiday gift knit that I'm making, and that is for my mom. I am making the Kuno's cushions by Anne Bensel. This is a slip stitch pattern or slip stitch like color work. It's not really color work because you work the pillows. If you have an oblong pillow, which is the one I'm making, it has, when you like finish it, what look like kind of vertical stripes that are kind of dotted and solid and all different widths, but you actually knit it from one end of the pillow to the other. So in any given row, you're only working on a single color. So by doing the slip stitch design, you end up with what kind of looks like color work. And it's knit in Aran weight yarn. And also with the slip stitch, you get a little bit of a tighter gauge, which means that they're a bit more substantial and like stand up to wear and tear. This is also a Rhinebeck acquisition. So I went to Rhinebeck a few weeks ago with some ladies from my knit night, and we had a fabulous time, and I stuck to my plan of what I was going to buy, which was yarn for this pillow, yarn for a sweater for myself, and then one skein of sock yarn, and like some small accessories. So we can start. Let's pull it all out so that we can see what we have here. So it's going to have 3 colors. The primary colors are black and white, and then it'll have 3 blue vertical stripes. The black and this blue are both Utopia Deja Vu. This is their blend of recycled fibers. So it's wool, alpaca, llama, mohair, and exotic fibers of unknown origin. It is an Aran weight. This color is called Superior, and this color is called Charcoal. They are both like so squidgy and lovely, and I am very excited about them. And I got a $5 off coupon that I can use on my next online purchase. So like watch out, Utopia online store. I'm going to be doing some damage. The white is this really lovely Aran weight kind of natural yarn that I got from Garthenor Organic. It is a British brand. It is 100% like Welsh wool of these two varieties that I cannot name for the life of me, and I will not try. And this color is called Owl. And so I have 2 skeins of this since it's my main color, and I wasn't sure how much I would need of it. I just figured better safe than sorry. Incidentally, my parents were visiting last weekend, and my mom had a swatch from her couch because they're like doing some shopping for things in their house. And I picked these colors out just like mentally picturing their house. And this was like such a perfect match with the shades in her like tweedy couch, which is actually very similar to the couch that I have, but a different color. I'm very proud of myself. I cannot believe that I accurately color matched it for like in the barn, in the dark. So I'm excited about it. And I think she'll really like it. Okay, let me put these away. Let's keep it moving into the acquisition I'm most excited about. So I knew I wanted to make a sweater for myself using some yarn that I had gotten at Rhinebeck. I had a lot of sweaters that were in my mind that I could be making. I had like this big list that had like the yarn weights for each of them, the amounts I would need to buy so that I could be ready to purchase when I found the yarn I liked. It ended up being that a button purchase is what made me decide what sweater I was making. I have been a big fan of Hall & Hoof Farm. They make wooden and ceramic buttons that are so cute. And we went to the Hall & Hoof stall, and I found these buttons. They are these little like quilt square buttons. Come really close. They have green and pink in them, and they're just like super darling. And so I saw these and I didn't have any yarn. And I was like, I have to get these buttons. I don't know what I'm going to put them on. I had some cabled cardigans in the list of things that I was interested in purchasing yarn for. So I figured we're going to do a cabled cardigan. We're going to get the colors that match the buttons, either a cream or one of the colors in the buttons. And then we ended up going by the Green Mountain Spinnery booth, and I got, I believe, 10 skeins of their mountain mohair in this shade. And here's the massive, like, just so much of it. It was all connected. I said, I'll take the lot of their mountain mohair in the shade Rhododendron. And their mountain mohair is a worsted weight yarn. It is 100% North American fiber. It's 30% mohair, 70% wool. And so it has this really lovely blend of mohair and wool in the yarn. I knit up a gauge swatch just to see like if the pattern that I was thinking of doing, I could do in the mountain mohair. And so you'll see it's kind of a mix of like stockinette and seed stitch and a couple of different needle sizes. And I did some yarn math, and I decided that I can make the Siri cardigan by Lynette. I will knit it on, I believe this was a size 8 needle for the slightly looser seed stitch at the bottom. I'll knit it on a size 8 needle, and I should be able to get a size small finished project if I knit the size medium. It's my first time doing any sort of like adjustments to patterns like that. Normally I knit them either with the yarn specified in the pattern or with a yarn that has a very similar weight, but we're experimenting. If it doesn't end up working out and I don't feel like it's coming out right, I can just switch patterns. There are a lot of worsted weight patterns out there. But I was just really excited. I prefer raglan sleeves, and a lot of cable cardigans that I was looking at had a drop shoulder or had like a lot more design, like more complicated designs. I figured I haven't knit cables since high school. Let's not like jump into the deep end too soon. So the Siri cardigan has just 2 cables on either sides of the button placket, and then it has 1 cable running down each sleeve, just like right at the top. And then most of the rest of it is seed stitch. So I thought it was a nice, like simple cardigan. It should be really pretty. not too complicated again, and just like really nice. My backup is I found that like the variation of the Hackett jacket with the 2 cables in the front. And so that could be a variation, but I'm hopeful that the Siri cardigan will work out. And like with these buttons, it's just too perfect. So that, other than the sock yarn, which, we'll get to it when we get to it, those are all of my acquisitions and kind of all of my plans through like the beginning of next year. I have some stash yarn that I probably want to work through, and some other kind of gifts that I might get to if I have time. But I'm not trying to like overwhelm myself with projects. So that's what we have right now. I don't know what I'll be doing in terms of, look at me settling in and getting comfortable. I don't know what I'll be doing in terms of like cadence of these vlogs, or podcasts. I might like do more project vlog type things, or maybe I'll do it this. I can't imagine that I'll be like finishing things fast enough to do anything on like on a timeline that's more than monthly. It takes me about a month, maybe a little more, to finish a sweater. And so it wouldn't be that interesting. I wouldn't have any finished objects if I was doing a podcast more than monthly. So we'll see. I just wanted to like share more about what I was knitting. And I really enjoy listening to other people talk about their knits while I'm knitting myself, and getting ideas and seeing like, ooh, I wanted to make that. How did theirs turn out? So hopefully this can be useful to someone. And I will see you in a future video.